From the studios, it's runoff day in Texas and a lot of big doings in the Lone Star State. May 26th, 2026, we have the nominees for U.S. Senate in Texas, as well as nominees for a bunch of other races that are going to be coming up in Texas in November. Of course, the big one that we got to talk about tonight, the Texas Senate race, the Republican runoff. And Ken Paxton is the Republican nominee. I think a lot of us saw that coming. I think a lot of us saw that coming prior to Donald Trump's endorsement. But now we have a situation. Senator John Cornyn, who's been in the Senate, I believe he was first elected in 2002. So a 4-term U.S. Senator becomes the second senator in this cycle to be successfully primaried, because you had Bill Cassidy next door in Louisiana, which is the first time since 2010 that 2 senators have lost renomination in the same cycle. But if you count in the House, Thomas Massie last week, this is now the 3rd sitting Republican member of Congress to have been ousted in their primary in the last week and a half. I mean, this is astonishing stuff here. So in Texas, how's it going? Well, about 63% for Paxton. That's about where it's been all night. The numbers were ugly right out of the gate. Once some of the early vote came in and Cornyn was getting crushed in places like Tarrant County, which is Fort Worth, and Denton County, which is in the northern part of the DFW, those numbers coming in, they've been pretty consistently bad all night. Then you have Cornyn getting crushed in Harris County, which is Houston. In fact, as I'm looking at the results right now, in the 25 counties right now at the time I recorded this with the most Republican runoff votes, like for example, Harris County has the most at this point. Of those top 25 counties, 23 of them are going for Paxton, only 2 for Cornyn. So John Cornyn, Pyrrhic victory here. He's winning Dallas County by about a point the time I recorded this. He's winning Travis County by about 8 points, which is where Austin is. But look at the others that are going down the list right now. Harris, that's Houston, losing it by 29. Tarrant losing it by 18. Collin losing it by 23. Bear losing it by 18. Denton losing it by 25. Montgomery losing it by 43. So, I mean, some really bad numbers in here for Cornyn. I mean, it looked like it was over about 10 to 15 minutes after the polls closed in the central time zone portion of Texas, which is the vast majority of the state. The AP couldn't call it until 9 o'clock Eastern when the polls closed in West Texas, and you knew they were going to call this race the microsecond that the polls closed in West Texas in the Mountain Time Zone. So that's it. Ken Paxton is going to be the Republican nominee. John Cornyn is going to be out of the Senate in January 2027. So we have our race. It's Paxton versus Talarico. Now, as far as Donald Trump goes, because we know Donald Trump waded into this race a week or so ago, I think Ken Paxton was going to win anyway. And indeed, I think that is why Donald Trump endorsed him. Because Donald Trump is not the kind of guy, he's not going to stick his neck out for somebody if he thinks they're going to lose. He likes to give the illusion, to give the impression that all he does is back winners. So he wasn't going to stick his neck out for Cornyn with Cornyn down in the polls. And Cornyn was down in the runoff polls pretty consistently throughout the period between March 3rd and now. So it looked like Paxton was going to win, and Donald Trump sealed it, and now he's going to most likely take credit for Paxton winning, even though Paxton probably would have won even if he had said nothing. So let's just say that. Because people out there tonight are going to be saying, well, Ken Paxton won because of Trump's endorsement, which I don't necessarily think that's true. I think Trump's endorsement, button it up, put a bow on it, but I think it was probably going to happen one way or another. So back to the main race now. The general election campaign in Texas begins tonight. It's Paxton versus Talarico. Ken Paxton, the Republican, James Talarico, the Democrat. So we will have more to say about the Texas Senate race, the general election in the coming days, because there's really not much else to say about this runoff. It is an absolute rout. Cornyn just got boat raced in this election. So there's really not much more to say about it. General election's way more important here. Have more to say about it in a few days. But look, the Democrats are not going to get a better opportunity to win a Senate race in Texas than they have right now. So Paxton, to be very generous, has baggage. It's probably, at this point, going to be a blue year. And now there is no incumbent in this race. And if you want to add another thing, as Democrats go, Talarico is actually running very competitively, at least in the opinion polling. So you add all of those things up, and you could have something there. Now, look, it's Texas. Texas has disappointed the Democrats many, many times over the last few decades. Not years, decades. Texas has been a constant source of disappointment for Democrats. With that said, all of these factors converging, this is the Democrats' shot right here to win a big race in Texas. And if they don't win it, then I don't know when they're going to win a big race in Texas. You have what looks like, through opinion polling, some suggestions that Hispanic voters might be going back towards the Democrats. Not all of them, but Donald Trump did really well with Hispanic voters in Texas 2 years ago. There are some signs that they're starting to, at least somewhat, switch back to the Democrats. Looks like it's going to be a Democratic year. The Republican nominee, they're going to have a field day with all of the things that Ken Paxton has been involved in. With that said, our latest rating of this race was tilt Republican. And that was even accounting for the fact that we thought Paxton was probably going to win the runoff. So it's still Texas. It's still going to be an uphill battle for James Talarico. All I'm saying is the Democrats are not going to get a better opportunity to win a statewide race than they are this year. The factors are there, but it's going to be up to them. And it's still quite possible that even with a bunch of things going their way and the political winds in the country at their back, it's still entirely possible that they'll lose. But I think you got the makings of a really interesting Senate race here in Texas as we continue to watch the results come in. And John Cornyn is getting absolutely annihilated in this Republican runoff. So some other interesting races I would like to talk about very briefly. You've got Christian Menifee defeating Al Green in the Democratic primary in Texas 18. So this was one where you have two sitting members. Menifee was only just recently elected in a special election. Al Green has been in Congress for a long time. They were redistricted after the Texas gerrymander. They were redistricted into the same district. They ran against each other. They were going to this May runoff, and Menifee has won in a rout. At the time I recorded this, it looks like most of the vote is in, and it looks like about a 68 or 69 to 31, 32 for Green. So a very, very big win for Menifee with about 68 or 69% of the vote. The Republican race for Texas Attorney General, you got Mays Middleton. He's going to win that runoff, about 56% of the vote. At the time we recorded this, Chip Roy, a congressman who will soon be out of Congress and out of elected office, he is at about 44%, so he will not advance to the general election there. Democrats in their runoff for Attorney General, they're going to nominate Nathan Johnson. He's sitting at about 60% of the vote in his runoff. In Texas, House 33, the Democratic runoff there, you've got an incumbent, Julie Johnson. She's losing, but she's losing to Colin Allred. You may remember he was a congressman. He ran for Senate a couple of years ago. He lost. And it looks like he's going to win renomination there. He's going to knock off an incumbent and probably going to be going back to Congress in that gerrymandered district in Dallas. Another interesting race here, Texas, the 35th district, Democratic nomination. Johnny Garcia is going to beat Maureen Galindo And that race got really interesting because Galindo got a lot of negative press in recent days and weeks. You can read up on that. So some Democrats probably breathing a sigh of relief that Garcia is going to win here. He's at about 59% at the time we recorded this, so he is going to win the Democratic nomination there. And on the Republican side in that same district, the 35th, Carlos de la Cruz, at the time we recorded this, is in the lead about 54%. It had not been called. John Lujan's at about 46%. So a tight race there. This district, it's partially San Antonio, and it takes in some counties to the east and to the northeast also of Bexar County and San Antonio. So a very competitive race in the GOP runoff there. The Democratic race, of course, looks like it's been decided, but your takeaway from Texas tonight, another incumbent Republican senator going down in flames. I mean, Cornyn didn't just lose. I mean, Cornyn got his ass kicked, like genuinely and legitimately got his ass kicked. So you've got your general election matchup in Texas, and primary season is going to continue here. This was it for May, but once we get into June, especially June 2nd, next week, we've got the California primary coming up, and a bunch of states are going to start to have their primaries between now and September. So we're getting into a very interesting time in American politics, and if you stick around here, like and subscribe, follow us on social media. We'll see you soon, and keep following along.